Teachers of Reddit, what was the trashiest thing you've seen a parent do? Staff raised money to get an 8-year-old girl a winter coat, live in rural Canada. Girl came to school the next day in a t-shirt in the dead of winter, her mom wearing the brand new, child-sized jacket. Edit. For those wondering, the principal confronted her about it, and mom told her to off and anything her kids owned belonged to her, and she could do what she wanted with it. Children's Ed was called, and that student lives with a very nice foster family now. Edit 2. Mother was rail thin. Looked like the stereotypical junkie archetype. The sleeves were 3 inches too short, didn't cover most of her stomach and she could do it up properly. Work at a school where over 80% of our population lives under the poverty line. I keep a cabinet full of hygiene products for kids to take. Deodorant, lotion, chapstick, hair gel, feminine hygiene products, shampoo, conditioner, those kinds of things in travel sizes. Being a teen is hard enough without having to cope with hygiene problems due to lack of funds at home. So one day the entire thing is empty. I refill the cabinet and 2 days later all of it is gone again. Refill with the last of my supplies. Catch the kid in the act of sweeping everything in his bag. I stop him, take him in the other room, and talk to him. He told his mother about the cabinet. She ordered him to bring her everything he could get. She was returning the items to Walmart for store credit, to buy cigarettes and beer. I told him to tell her the cabinet is locked now. I bought a bike lock, so it was not a lie. It is sickening. Edit. Feminine for feline. Update. The lock was only on until the student left. It has been on the honor system for 15 years, over 1,700 students and only one abuser of the system. I call that a good record. Some asked or commented about feminine hygiene products and their availability at the nurse or health office. I added them early on to the cabinet when I found out that the nurse charged 0.50 for them and refused to let girls take one on credit. Sorry for the typo. Damn you autocorrect. But hey, it made you laugh. Woman I used to babysit for worked in a school as an assistant awesome in Toronto. She always told this story about how the class rabbit would go home with a new kid each weekend. They kept trying to avoid giving one kid the bunny for the weekend because it was clear his home life wasn't the best. But they finally caved and let him take the rabbit home. The parents killed the rabbit and ate it. They killed the class bunny and fried it up for dinner. They weren't even ashamed when they told the teacher what happened on Monday. Said they were out of groceries or something. Edit. I wish I had more details, but I haven't seen this woman in a few years, so I only remember the basics of the story. This incident happened around 20 or more years ago, so I'm not sure about the aftermath. I had almost completely forgot about it until I saw this thread and was reminded of this area. As far as I remember, the family was very clearly trashy and irresponsible, and that's why the school didn't want that kid to take the animal for the weekend. I volunteer at after-school programs to help tutor. I had a student earlier this year. Good kid. Loves math, loves computers, wants to be a programmer when he grows up. He's really struggling in 7th grade because he has no computer at home. We have to do his online assignments at the program, but we only meet twice a week. I pulled his mom aside and explained how he could be doing much better in school with some kind of PC and internet access at home. She says she can't afford a computer. I tell her that for $200 I could piece all the parts together myself. For a fully functional setup, that would be sufficient for at least the next few years. I'd even build it with him, so he could learn some extremely valuable information. I'd even front her half, but she'd have to pay me back. She says no way, still way out of her budget. Mind you, while we are having this conversation, she's barely looking up to speak to me. Too busy scrolling through the gram on her iPhone X. I say it, I'll do it myself. Scrap together all of the parts I can for free. I only had to buy an HDD. The setup was really out of date, but still worked. Gave it to them. Kid was thrilled. About a month later I notice he's trying to finish all his HW at the program again. I ask his mom if everything's okay with the computer. She says it broke down. I say okay, what happened? I'll pick it up and try to fix it. She says she had to throw it away. I pull the kid aside and ask him. He tells me she sold it to her cousin for $50. I really don't like calling people trashy when they're apparently stuck in a culture of poverty. Maybe she needed that $50 for the light bill or groceries. But at the same time she spends 3x that amount on her cell phone each month, so it really just broke my heart. It was like she's doing everything in her power to ensure the kid has no king chance at a decent life. Well, in my profession it's more often what the parents don't do that wins them the Parent of the Year award. But I do have a couple Hall of Famers. I'm a special education teacher, so I deal with kids with all kinds of physical, emotional and academic disabilities. I took care of a little girl once who had a number of complications due to spina bifida. Her mother couldn't be bothered to take care of her. The little girl wore diapers and was cathed. She required 3 to 5 diaper changes a day. Mom would only send 5 diapers a week. The thing is, she was getting full services from her community, so she was being provided with plenty of supplies. We suspect Mom was probably selling the extras. I ended up just buying her diapers. Mom would not change her catheter regularly. We would change her out at school, but other than that she'd go another 24 hours before a change out. Longer, if it was a weekend. The smell from the infections she'd get after a weekend was horrendous. She had lice constantly and oozing bedbug sores. Mom told us to F off when we'd call and tell her to take her to a doctor. Found out later in the year that she also had scabies. We offered to administer the medications and creams at school. Mom told us to go to hell. Girl would come to school in men's underwear, XXL shirts and size 16 pants. She was 8. Finally discovered that her 9-year-old sister was changing her diapers and dressing her every day, and sister couldn't find any other cleanish clothes to put on her. Mom's response: I'm busy. I have to get to work in the mornings. Final straw was when the nurse discovered what appeared to be STD warts while changing her diaper one day. Nursemaid, for the 10th time, another CPS report, but principal insisted that we call home and report our findings. Grandma found out, tipped off Mom, and Mom appeared at the school 15 minutes later, snatched up the kids and disappeared. Investigators showed up 15 minutes later, but Mom was already long gone. Never saw the kids again. The cafeteria, which is used for parent meetings, has tables with fixed bench seating. You have to swing a leg over to sit down. Parent wore a short skirt and was commando. She also got up several times. I called a parent about a behavior issue. I must have been on speakerphone because I heard the kid come home. Parent starts screaming at and wailing on the kid, cussing, calling them all sorts of names. I don't even know if the parent remembered I was on the phone. I hung up the phone and went to my principal. Teachers are mandated reporters. Don't hit your kids in front of a teacher. I work in a school in one of the most socially deprived areas of the UK. At Parents' Evening, we give every parent a printout of their child's grades in each subject, alongside their target grades. Last year, we had the parent of an 11-year-old respond to this printout by shouting, "What the am I going to do with this? I can't king read, can I?" This was in front of other children, parents and her child's teachers. Edit. After only 1 year in this school, there's actually a pretty long list of things I've seen parents do, or have heard other staff members claim to have seen parents do. Edit 2. Since a few people have asked, the school is in the Midlands. I don't want to be any more specific just in case anyone figures out which school it is. Final edit. People seem to be torn on seeing this as just trashy, or more as sad, as if I might be picking on her a bit. Just to be clear, I'm not making fun of her. A quick laugh behind closed doors at things like this seems to give a bit of levity for teachers in schools like mine. It can be tough, but I think the majority of people who work in these areas do it because they want to help conquer some of the social inequalities or issues that people are facing, whether that's for pure humanistic beliefs, their own ego, or just because it feels like you're accomplishing something. Maybe a bit of each. Regardless, I feel sympathy for the woman in question and her daughter. One of the aims of my job is to help prevent people reaching adulthood without the necessary skills to thrive. Her behavior doesn't change that, and doesn't make me assume I'm a higher class of person than she is, just dealt a different hand, I guess. I'm a high school teacher, one time a parent of a child who had been going back and forth with another child on social media, came to the school to confront the other girl. The mom ended up bursting into my classroom to try to fight one of my 9th grade girls, sending us into a lockdown until the woman was removed by the police. Edit. I want to make clear that the systems in place have failed this woman, her family, and her friends at basically every level, and I can understand why she felt like she didn't trust any systems to handle the situation. The fact that many comments went straight to talking about race is disappointing. By the end of the school year, this particular mother was helping chaperone events and was a good role model for our young people. Her daughter was one of the best performing students in the grade. So although this particular event was traumatizing for a lot of people, let's not use it to justify any kind of racism or generalizations. Okay, thanks. My mom is a middle school teacher. Just about every day, some parent doesn't come pick up their kids because they literally forgot about them or were passed out drunk/on drugs. Then the poor child gets sent to daycare, which is not free. Then the parents complain about the charge. My mom has had to bring random kids home before who barely know the way home. It's really sad. When I taught in Lower West Virginia, a mom showed up to a 5th grade sports event methed out. Wish I could have said this was atypical. I'm not a teacher, but my mother is. It was her birthday and I live 3 hours away from her. I drove to my parents' house unannounced to surprise her for her birthday. She was obviously working as it was school hours, so I drove to the school she works at, just as they were finishing. I was heading to the staff room, which is behind the reception area. I was about to announce myself to the receptionist and ask to wait for mum in the staff room when this angry as dad storms in. He was abusing the out of the poor receptionist because his daughter got in trouble for being ahead in class. The principal comes out and tries to defuse the situation, and a minute later my mother comes in on her way to the staff room. It's hectic in there, and then all of a sudden the angry dad head the principal right in the face. My mother screams, and angry dad turns and takes one step towards her. Before he got any further, I, without thinking, punched that in the face and his nose disappeared. Police came shortly after, and I wasn't charged. It was classified as restraining with reasonable force due to him headbutting. Happy birthday, mum. Mother came to a school sports day swigging from a bottle of wine. We always felt desperately sorry for her daughter, because whenever she returned to school following a holiday at home, this was a boarding school, we had to wash all her clothes, because they reeked of cigarettes, and this poor little girl was easily the most unhappy child I've ever seen. Not a teacher, but a college administrator. Parents will call in very frequently when there is an issue with their student's living situation. If they are unwhole, frequent, I quote FERPA to them. Best example, I had to bill a student for around $600 in damages to their room at the end of the year. Mom called me off about this because they had tried to repair the damages poorly. She ended up yelling about this over the phone, and I reminded her that her son was 22 years old and that I could only talk with him about this. Kid calls me back the next day and apologizes for his mom being at me and asks if I'm able to just his mom when she calls back. It's a weird line of work. Edit. This got big. Some vocabulary I've learned for other folks dealing with this. Snoutlow parents. My cousin is a teacher, and she once had a parent come to a parent/teacher conference extremely drunk, and right before the meeting tried to pull out a bag of coke and start doing lines. Police were called, and so was CPS. The school also had to call 911 once because a parent overdosed in the parking lot while waiting to pick up their kid, and the poor kid was too young to understand why their mom was slumped over in their car.